Hey everyone, welcome to Two Car Pros. My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to use an angle torque wrench. In other words, how to set the degree on a torque to yield bolt. So what do I mean by torque to yield? Torque to yield is something that automotive OEMs came up with somewhere in the 90s. They look like this. I know they look like a normal bolt, and it's really tough to tell if they're a torque to yield bolt or not. Basically, you have to look up the torque spec, and if it has a degree in it, that means that they have factored into the bolt a stretch. So the bolt will physically stretch, creating the clamping force that's required for the engineering side of assembling an engine, some suspension components use them, things like that. So they're different from a normal torque bolt where you just grab the torque wrench, set it to your torque value, pull it until it clicks, and you're done. This has an additional step. So you're going to have the regular torque value. You're going to pull it to that torque value. Torque wrench clicks. That part's done. Then you have the degreeing part. Now, if you have a fancy torque wrench like I do, it's all in one tool and it can calculate the degree on the fly and everything is good to go, and it basically holds your hand. I recommend buying one of these just because they're crazy cheap now. You can get one for right around 150 bucks, something like that. I think Harbor Freight sells one for about that. That's actually what I used to put my first LS together, and it was super important to have that. Otherwise, you can use one of these. It's like a degree wheel you put on top of the torque wrench, and it will kind of keep track of your degree for you, but it's not crazy accurate, and it's really easy to misread them. So again, I recommend buying the torque wrench, and the link is located down below in the description. With all that out of the way, let's jump into it.
So let's start with this example here. I have an aluminum block I've just tapped a hole into, a pretty good size one. This is what I'd call pretty much a regular cylinder head bolt. So we'll pretend that this is the engine surface. Then we'll pretend that this set of washers right here is our cylinder head, and this is our cylinder head bolt. That is torque to yield. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to plonk down your head, and it's going to align with all of the dowel holes. I've done that in a lot of different videos. And then we're going to have our bolt that we put in, and make sure we get that threaded correctly. So you should be able to just twist the bolt like this with your fingers. If you're trying to like really put it in there and it's really fighting you, you probably have it cross-threaded and you might ruin that. So take it back out and try to put it in. Once again, you should be able to just get it kind of snugged down with your fingers just like that. So here's an overhead shot of where the bolt goes into essentially our engine, and we're going to put our torque wrench on there and make sure that our socket has a good purchase on the bolt. You don't want it to be slightly off, and then as soon as you put pressure on it, it bucks off and you have a problem. You want to make sure this has maximum contact with the head of the bolt. After that, you'll get your first torque value, which is typically like 20 foot-pounds around there. It will be different engine to engine and whatever you're working on, so you need to look that info up. But for my pretend scenario over here, 20 foot-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and tighten that down until it beeps off. There we go. So it's at 20 foot-pounds, and then you stop, and we need to do the angle part of the equation. So on our torque wrench, we have our default setting of pound-feet. So this is typical of not using torque to yield, but we need to get over to angling, and the way we do that is push this enter key. It's going to select that, and we have to let it sit still for a moment so we can get a baseline and a reference point of where it is on the planet. And so now we can adjust how much sweep we want. So let's just say it wants 60 more degrees after our initial tightening. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, once again, got a good purchase on the bolt. My torque wrench is set up to start tracking. So we're going to start pushing it, and you'll see the screen changing and adding that degree onto there. So the bolt is actually turning that much on a circle. Okay, so coming up, there we go, 60 degrees, and stop. So now our imaginary cylinder head bolt is tightened down on our imaginary cylinder head into our imaginary engine. And in this instance, you would just do that in sequence for the rest of the head bolts. And those are going to vary manufacturer to manufacturer on sequence to sequence. So you need to look that information up, available on twocarpros.com. Also, if you get interrupted, like let's say you tighten this down and you tightened it like a certain amount of degrees or something, any kind of tightening, this bolt is no longer good anymore. That's torque to yield. And once it has been torqued, it has been yielded, it's no longer suitable for clamping down the head. You need to throw it away and get a new one. It's not like the good old days where you could just reuse head bolts over and over and over again. Those days are gone. Torque to yield, you get interrupted, you need a new one.
So that is how to use a torque wrench, angle, degree, whatever you want to call it, using a torque wrench to tighten down torque yield bolts. It's a really important skill to have, especially moving forward in the automotive world. More and more things are going to torque yield. I've seen more suspension components using torque yield rather than regular fasteners. Why they do that, I'm sure, is down to a cost reason. I'm sure torque yield bolts en masse are easier to produce, so they're cheaper, so OEMs are more inclined to use them. Kind of a bummer for us because those bolts aren't reusable in those applications. Thank you so very much for watching. If you found this video helpful or interesting at all, please consider clicking that join button down below as a direct way to help my channel out, and I really appreciate that. Otherwise, a like, comment, and subscription go a huge way in helping my channel out, and I appreciate that as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.